And that's it. Those are all of my settings for you to get cinematic looking footage out of the DJI Osmo 360. And it's been out for a couple of weeks now, meaning that people are finally starting to get this camera in their hand or are thinking about buying one. And if that sounds like you, then in this video, we're going to cover all of the best settings for this camera so that when you finally get it, or if you already have it, you can hit the ground running and just get the absolute best videos that you can out of this camera. All right, so let's dive right in. So the first thing you want to do is you want to click on the bottom left. You want to make sure that panoramic video is selected and that the mode is set to 360. This is what I've been filming all of my DJI Osmo 360 videos in. Next up, we're going to head into the resolution and the frame rate, and you can access that just by swiping up from the bottom right here. And just like every other camera, we're going to be usually filming in the highest resolution. Now for the DJI Osmo 360, that is going to be 8K. That's what we're going to be filming in, and that's what I film all of my videos in on the DJI Osmo 360. And just a quick disclaimer, if this is your first 360 camera, the videos that you export will still be in 4K. It's the total 360 image that's stitched together from both cameras that turns into an 8K resolution. So again, if this is your first 360 camera, don't be fooled into thinking that you're going to be getting true 8K video. Your output will still be in 4K. Now for frame rates, we're going to have three different options. The first one being 24 frames per second. Now me personally, I like more of a cinematic vibe, and if that's what you're going for, then 24 frames per second is going to be the mode that you want to film in. All the videos that you saw for the DJI Osmo 360 release video that I filmed were all filmed in 24 frames per second. Your next option is going to be 30 frames per second, and this is really if you're going to be filming for short form social media content like TikTok and Instagram and even YouTube Shorts. All these platforms are optimized for 30 frames per second. So if that's going to be your main goal, I would go ahead and film everything in 30 frames per second. And finally, the last frame rate that we have available to us is 50. So if I go ahead and select this, it's now set to 8K at 50 frames per second. And just like the camera says at the bottom, if you're planning to slow down your footage, I would go ahead and pick 50 frames per second. Now this is a standout feature of the DJI Osmo 360. This is the highest frame rate that you can get in any 360 camera at 8K resolution, which is really nice to have on this camera. So if you're planning on slowing things down, film in 50 frames per second. Again, me personally, I film all of my videos in 24 frames per second on the DJI Osmo 360. Next up, we're going to select our viewing focal point or whatever. Now, there are a few to pick from, and honestly, it doesn't really matter because you can reframe your videos whenever you're filming with a 360 camera, which is the big advantage. And so personally, I just go ahead and pick wide. It doesn't really matter what you pick. Again, you can reframe in post. Now we're going to head into some of the more advanced settings on this camera. So if you tap this little settings gear icon on the right side of the page on your main page, you're going to be set into regular mode, so non-pro by default. We want to go ahead and change this by tapping on the pro button, and this is going to go ahead and put your camera in that pro mode. Now luckily, there's actually not much that we need to change here. The first three settings, exposure, white balance, and the anti-motion blur, will be set correctly. Because the DJI Osmo 360 doesn't have ND filters yet like the Insta360 X5, which Insta360 just released, we actually want our exposure and our white balance to be set to automatic at all times, and we do want motion blur wherever available, so we're going to leave the anti-motion blur on off. Now the first setting we're actually going to change is one of the big reasons you want to buy this camera, and that's your color setting. So by default, it'll be set to normal 10-bit. If you're like most filmmakers, you're going to want to go ahead and change this to D-Log M 10-bit, and by default the color recovery will be on off, and I'll get to that in a second. But basically, D-Log M allows you to film in this 10-bit flat color profile, which will allow you to color grade your footage and get really nice looking and professional looking images. Now again, obviously the caveat is that you're going to need to know how to color grade, and so if you don't, I would highly recommend trying to learn. This is a very easy color profile to color grade and learn on. Now the next thing I want to do is, you're going to notice that this color recovery menu appeared when I selected D-Log M. I want to go ahead and turn this on, and all this does is that it basically brings color to your 10-bit D-Log M footage, and that's just for more of a monitoring use. So meaning that it's not actually color grading your video for you, it's just showing you what it would look like if you were color grading your footage. So if you're going to go ahead and monitor the video on your phone or something, it's going to show you what it's going to look like afterwards, and this will give you a good sense of maybe what the colors will look like once you've gone ahead and adjusted them in post. Now, if you don't know how to color grade or you don't want to color grade, then I do have good news for you. DJI has included this normal 10-bit color mode, so all the colors baked in. You don't have to do any kind of editing, but you still get that 10-bit footage, making your footage look that much more professional and more punchy. 10-bit just gives you way more color than you're used to compared to 8-bit. Now, personally, I use 10-bit D-Log-M for all of my videos on the Osmo 360, but if you don't want to go ahead and color grade, you can definitely use the normal mode. Now, the last setting we're going to change in this Pro mode, which is really what helps DJI to really separate itself from the competition, is giving you these additional controls in their Pro mode, is some of the image adjustment parameters over here. So if I go ahead and tap on these, I already have these adjusted, but what you want to do is you want to lower your texture to -2. This is essentially just sharpening, and taking away the sharpening is going to give you a much more natural look in your images. You can always add sharpening later in post, but it's very difficult to take it away, which is why I set this to -2. And as for noise reduction, I go ahead and I set this to -1, not all the way down to -2, because I do want some of the assistance from the camera to apply that noise reduction. So it definitely does help at -1, but I don't crank it all the way down to -2. You can go ahead and play around with this and see what your preference is, but these are the settings that have worked for me on every single DJI product. So this is what I go ahead and I set my image parameters to. Now, with the main settings out of the way, there are a couple of hidden secret features that I like to share in some secret settings. And so the first one is that if you swipe down from the top and then you go ahead and you click this settings gear icon, and then you scroll down to bitrate, you want to go ahead and you want to make sure that this is set to high. Now, by default, this will be set to standard, so go ahead and change this to high. This is going to ensure that your camera captures the most available information whenever it's recording, and that's going to give you the highest image quality possible. This is a really important setting that a lot of people miss. And the other setting that I usually change is if you scroll over to the next page, they will have grids available. Now, by default, this is set to none. I have this turned on to grid. Again, because this is a 360 camera and you're going to be recording 360 footage, this is not really essential, but it will definitely help in framing up certain shots if you're planning on having the camera static whenever you're editing. So again, not necessarily at all, but I would go ahead and turn this on if I was you. Now, for this part, you are going to want to go ahead and get your phone and you're going to want to connect it to your camera. And I'm just going to show you the export settings and the export workflow if you're editing on your phone, to ensure that you don't lose any of that quality when you're editing, and just making sure that you still get the highest quality image file whenever you're done with your entire edit. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to select one of your videos that you've already edited or you're going to edit. And once you have all the framing and everything lined up for your edit and everything you want to do, you want to go ahead and click on this button at the top, and you want to change your picture quality to 4K. Like I mentioned earlier, even if you record in 8K, this is what the camera is going to export to. Now, this specific video I filmed in 30 frames per second, so this is the only option I have here. In most cases, you just want to export in the frame rate that you recorded in. And finally, you want to change the bit rate to higher. Now, you do have these two menu options at the bottom over here. I always turn on 10-bit color depth to ensure that I go ahead and get that color information that I wanted in that 10-bit mode. And the noise reduction I only turn on if I recorded a video in a really dark setting. So that wasn't the case for this video, so I'm going to leave it off. But if I had recorded this in a dark setting, I would go ahead and turn this on, and that's literally it. After this, you just go ahead and you hit export. And once your video is exported, you can just simply go ahead and airdrop your video or transfer it to your computer if you filmed in D-Log-M to go ahead and color grade it. And that's literally the entire workflow and the settings that I use to ensure that I get the highest quality image out of the DJI Osmo 360. The DJI Osmo 360.